Hello everyone, this is my reaction to Star Citizen Live, lots of ship talk. As always, this is not a summary, I only talk about things I find important.
This year, if my math is correct, and please, you guys correct me if it's not, you have now delivered 27 vehicles this year. So my question is, WTF? Like, how did this happen? And what's this change been like?
Yeah, once again, CIG is tooting their own horn. Most of the 27 new ships we got in 2025 are just variants that should be handled under modularity, but modularity seems to be dead, are kit bashed or needed for Squadron 42, for example Stinger. I find it very disingenuous to say, hey, we got 27 new ships in 2025. And even if this would be true, of what use are 27 new ships when the game in year 14 is still missing basics, core mechanics is still laggy, has interaction delays and massive do-things?
Server meshing has been working pretty much flawlessly at scale for the past 9 months.
How does that work? There's folks out there who are obviously waiting on their Banu merchantman for however many years. I think it's almost 12 at this point, and stuff like this, versus getting a brand new ship like the L-22 or whatnot. How do you make these decisions?
As we've said this a few times, but as you say, always someone's first show. Yep. When it comes to the backlog ships, quite a few years ago, we decided that we're not just going to release ships that just don't have their gameplay loop, or like their main gameplay loop. And for a lot of those older backlog ships, they rely on features or gameplay loops that just simply aren't in the game or won't be in the game within the period of time it's going to take to make that vehicle.
I don't agree with CRG's statement. We are only releasing ships that have their gameplay loop. And what gameplay loop does BMM need? BMM has those shops inside the ship, or supposed to have. I wonder when we will ever see this, but you could use a BMM just to haul cargo fine. According to Chris, 2016 CitizenCon talk, BMM was scheduled for 3.3 autumn 2017. And farming.
3.3. Here's the one. Who knew farming was so popular? So what we're going to aim for 3.3 is farming, sort of the rescue side. Yeah. And then you can hit Tony up about all this here, because yet more fleshing out what we're doing with Stanton. And, the Anvil Carrack, which I think that's the 890 jump, right? And the Merchantman. So there you go.
The first version of Armor will be in as part of engineering, and it's going to dramatically change the balance between ballistics and lasers and all that stuff.
This is good to know. In my last videos I said engineering without armor, without Maelstrom and without NPC crews doesn't make sense. Now we are getting at least armor. Here we have again Ola Keen's fantastic website, Star Citizen Ships Performances Viewer. Link to this is my first pinned comment below. Until we are getting armor damage multipliers are pretty much equalized. Most ships and vehicles have 38% resistance against physical damage and no resistance against laser and distortion damage. My guess is CRG will individually adjust those numbers depending on the ship and the role.
Different tiers of ships and everything.
Oh.
It's just fundamentally different about how combat's going to play out.
Yeah, it's now you're now going to have this choice. Sure, I can use lasers if I want to peel down the shields and then melt the armor stuff, or if I know where the shield generator is and I've got ballistics, I can punch right through that and take those out faster.
I like this idea very much. If you have knowledge, you have an advantage in combat. However, there's one major issue with this. In most ships and vehicles, artists put components wherever they could find a space or where it looked pleasing. In most ships, components are side by side, even if those ships have multiple power plants, multiple shield generators and coolers. If one component is hit, it's very likely other components are getting hit too. If one component starts to burn, the fire will spread to the other components. CIG doesn't seem to understand the concept of redundancy. There are a few exceptions. For example, Perseus has one set of components spread out over the ship, which is very nice.
Challenge and change to combat. The more you know these ships, the more effective you're going to be and stuff. And then of course, continuing changes to flight model. The flight model will make that better and stuff as time goes on.
I find it funny and actually sad that CIG in year 14, with over $1 billion in funding, don't just look at the tracker on CIG's website. CIG also has private investors, for example the Caldas, still hasn't nailed down the flight model. Basic core mechanics like the flight model should have been nailed down in year 2 or 3. So many things, so much balance depends on it, but here we go.
So let's explain what the gold standard is real quick. And if you're so inclined, give me a list of what ships are getting their gold standard in 2026. I know it's a when question, but
and then I can't get in trouble.
I'm gonna push for it. I want to know what ships get their gold standard next year.
So gold standard, I mean, it's a term that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but for me, it's about if we were releasing that ship today, making sure it has all the features, all the functionality of a ship that we are releasing that's brand new. So really, it's going through and just kind of like, ticking off all of its components, its physical items, the different interactions, making sure the metrics are correct, and it's really just kind of bringing it up to the gameplay experience that a more modern ship would have.
The issue with Star Citizen's gold standard is the goalpost is still moving, or at least it was until now. Maybe this has changed.
Star Runner owners are looking at the Clippers' second entrance and being like, where's my second entrance?
Not only Mercury Star Runner owners, Carrack has this problem too. John Crow said, yeah, we forgot to put a secondary entrance and elevator into Carrack. How about having a spreadsheet with bullet points? CIG cannot even do this. Let this sink in.
When we made the original 600i, we had a particular vision for how we wanted the interior to be used and laid out, and then as the game evolved, we realized that the interior just doesn't work.
And again, a very disingenuous statement. This is almost like gaslighting. It's pretty much obvious whoever designed 600i has no idea how to design a ship. You have this huge bedroom with 4 beds at the wall. Who comes up with this? This is so silly. So please don't give me, yeah, things have changed. When it comes to architecture and ship designs, CIG is just terrible. They have enough money now to hire an architect, but they don't want to.
Re-reviewed, and obviously everyone's seen the rework images, the concept board. There's an entire thread on Spectrum where people are keeping track of everything for it that we've ever said and covered.
For more than 4 years by now, CIG is talking about a 600i rework, and they showed us some fancy pictures. They even had a Nova tank on the main elevator of 600i. I think it's fair to ask, is this real or was this just faked?
And then the Mark IIs exist where the Mark I, the original, still works for the rule, but we want to make it bigger and better, but we don't want to get rid of what the original rule was being fulfilled.
Fine, and make it so that everyone can upgrade to Mark II for free if they want to. No, you're giving us Mark IIs with far better weapons just to sell more ships.
The Aurora is obviously getting the gold. It's not obviously, but people are now hearing the Aurora's getting the gold standard.
If you've been reading the monthly reports.
Is it in the monthly?
Yep.
Thank God I missed that. Okay, so the Aurora is getting the gold standard. So what that is, the interior still mostly works, but there's some tweaks needed to make it work with our gameplay loops. But we don't need to strip the entire interior back. It needs a place to put weapons. It needs a place so you can actually walk inside with storage boxes. It needs a fire extinguisher. We don't need to gut the entire ship. So that's why the Aurora is getting its gold standard. It doesn't need a full rework.
An Aurora Mark II is coming.
Yeah.
A big visual upgrade compared to the Mark Is, but there are so many Mark Is out in people's accounts. Like, it's one of the most iconic Star Citizen ships. We don't want to just suddenly one day, poof, they all disappear, and you've all got this new other ship that you perhaps didn't want 10 years ago. So it's the same with the Mark I Hornets. We didn't get rid of them and replace everybody's with Mark IIs. We want
them collector's
items. Both can coexist, and yeah, like I say, as collector's editions for. I was here back when the Mark I was a thing.
Again, fine. give everyone who owns a Mark I Hornet, a Mark I Aurora, the chance to upgrade to Mark II without any extra cost. But no, you are making Mark IIs way overpowered compared to Mark Is, and we have to pay extra. You are heavily monetizing this.
Your cargo capacity is going quite a long way down. So the D, and I've got my notes here, is going down to 6,912 SEU, which is a lot of SEU. And the E is going down to 12,288 SEU. So, gut reaction, that's a big drop from, I think, 98,000, and I can't remember what the D was.
Yeah.
But for years, people quite rightly said, this is going to be so boring. I don't want to sit and load 3,000 plus 32 SEU containers by hand, or even in an org.
And this is the point where I'm getting really angry. I'm not getting angry often. Chankru, please stop the gaslighting. Please stop making stupid excuses. Of course, no one wants to load 3072 32 SEU container one by one using a magical handheld tractor beam where players come with cargo exceeding 20 tons without any effort. Chris said very clearly, the crew of a container ship doesn't do the loading themselves. There will be machines, NPCs, and services. But now all we have is the silly tractor beam.
Steve Apollyon asks, are there any plans on cargo loading of the bigger ships, such as the whole series of ships, and is the loading at a space station or even planetary going to be automatic? Or will we have specialized small cargo loading ships similar to Argo to load manually if we choose to, similar to the Argo?
Yeah, we have talked about the fact that we don't want the larger ships to basically just park it, click the button, and it's done. That these larger ships that have vast quantities of materials would actually take a significant period of time to unload and may result in missions for NPCs and or other players to actually undertake. We've actually got a pretty comprehensive design right now, but we're still iterating through that because we actually want to unify some of the functionality for loading and unloading.
Like if I have a big container ship and I pull into the port of LA here at Long Beach, there's a whole setup. There's longshoremen, big cranes, and there's service, and the crew of the container ship don't actually unload the containers themselves. There's equipment that does it, and there's people that are paid to do that. And I would say that in general, in sort of the bigger sort of spaceports, you would have that same kind of setup where you would have the ability to unload the bigger ships, unload the containers. Potentially, we've talked about having the ability for players to sort of play the part of a longshoreman if they're running around in a Largo and taking off a container from a Hully and dropping it to another place and doing that, or having AI do that. And then there obviously will be cases where, which is probably a later question we have here, but there'll be manual unloading and loading of cargo where you don't have the sort of big services, like if I just had a ship and I was off the coast somewhere and there wasn't a port, then obviously I would have to be doing it myself. And so I think we've been looking at ways that you have the sort of automatic option that's the services provided.
Automatic option when appropriate, but the fidelity so that on these smaller ships you can actually, and this makes for much more interesting gameplay in a lot of times, in a lot of different cases, because you can imagine scenarios to where you need to deliver a smaller quantity, a half dozen, a dozen, specific crates of some sort of, illegal liquor or something to somebody at a planet.
I think so the answer is there will be services, but we'll also have some specialized ships and equipment for unloading cargo.
Yeah.
Economy-wise, huge concerns, and then performance-wise, also huge concerns.
Again, fine, but why even have such a ship then? Why not have a plan? Why not have a concept? Why not look in advance? Why not think things through? Oh yes, CIG doesn't do this. If you, CIG, would have any decency, you would give everyone who bought a HAL D and E a full refund. Not just store credits, give them their money back.
Hand on heart, generally curious how long it would take to put that many 32 SUs on it.
Yes, genius. This is why Chris talked about NPCs, machines and services for loading, unloading. Chris said very clearly, the crew of a container ship doesn't do the loading themselves. Of course, no one expects a HAL-E to be loaded in a split second using machines, MPC and services, but please stop this manually loading nonsense. If this would be real life, you would be laughed out of the room.
Why does the Perseus pilot have control over the ship's torpedoes when the Polaris pilot isn't allowed to use the torpedoes?
I would go one step further. Why is the Polaris torpedo operator not on the bridge? Why doesn't he have a seat? He is just standing at a console deep in the belly of Polaris. He has very little tactical awareness, and of course, he is subject to force reactions, fast reactions.
So in 4.5, we're going to allow one of the bridge stations. We were talking about this last night. Which one?
We went for the gun, not the missile.
The gun one, not the missile. So the back right station of the Polaris bridge will have torpedo control as well now. It's, as you can imagine, you can use it from there. There's still a reason to go down into the depths of the ship to use it because you then get that 360 camera, and it also has a much larger queue of missiles from there.
Yeah. Okay, this is good news, but still, it's only a half step. Why can Idris pilot use a big gun and size 12 torpedoes? Polaris pilot cannot. And what was this about 360 camera? Right now, torpedo operator in Polaris doesn't have a 360 camera because camera is on the underside of the ship. You are missing a lot of field of view. And why can't you give the same camera to torpedo operator on the bridge? And why does torpedo operator on the bridge not have access to all torpedoes? This seems so silly.
Why not the pilot?
Yeah, why not?
Because we sort of want to have some enforced balance there. The Perseus torpedoes are way smaller, way less damage compared to the Polaris ones.
What about Idris? Idris pilot has access to size 12 torpedoes, not just size 10 torpedoes of Polaris, to which Polaris pilot has no access to. It almost looks like if you pay more money, you get more features.
How will ammunition be replaced on the Perseus during combat? Will there be some kind of ammunition containers in the cargo hold?
Short term, it will essentially hoover out the cargo grid. Mid, long term, we'll have like dedicated space next to those turrets. We sort of left space for this in the Perseus 2 turret rooms. They're just arted up with like fluff. You see it in the stance attack. There's all this cool artwork that implies loading of stuff that you'll be then manually loading the specific ammo type into that area, and that will go to that weapon.
The Clipper, what will it be able to craft?
FPS items and small ship items, sort of within that world. It's not designed to be like, I want to make another vehicle. It's clearly not going to fit. Size 1 shield, like if your shield gets destroyed, you can go craft another one on board and go fix it.
Jared, we want more video content because we like it. I like it too. And there will be more video content next year. Probably not back to what it was at the height of, but I am bound and determined to do more next year. Downward facing landing lights. Why has this critical element been overlooked in ship design?
We do have plans for a solution. It's a system called, we're calling it LAMP, light amplification on all of the canopy glasses, so you actually be able to see what you're doing in the dark.
Very nice, but how does this help me if I have to use third-person view to land in the darkness?
I still want an underneath landing camera though. I still want, especially on, what's the one that took off and landed vertical?
Sulan.
Yeah, so that was good for that. With the Clipper debuting an integrated crafting station, are we going to see them added to existing ships such as the Carrack or Aquila?
Carrack, yes, because it was one of the promised features of that ship was this repair room, which at the time sort of was pretty undefined, but now it's repair is sort of like crafting your own small items for things, and you can sort of repair adjacently to it. And we were talking about the Killer. We can't remember that being a thing for it.
I don't remember that either. I think that.
If someone has some hard evidence for that being a thing, put it in chat or comments or the Spectrum thread. Tag me on Spectrum.
Send your comments, John Crew.
Yeah.
Even if it wouldn't be visible in-game, can someone please give us an update on the intentions around ship naming? We've had absolutely no word in years to confirm or deny that the original reservation system is still aligned with the team's philosophy. If it is, then what's stopping you from adding ship naming simply on the web hanger side, so we can reserve the unique names we have in mind?
So from a vehicle content point of view, there's two things there. Since we introduced vehicle naming and serials with the Hercules and a slew of other ships, we've done the setup on all the ships to support having names since then. So anything in like the last 3-4 years
4 years.
Yeah, at least one.
has the setup for it. We're not, at least from an art point of view, not particularly happy with how it works because it's basically a fixed size, maximum 32 carat long length string that goes on the exterior of the vehicle. If you name your ship B, it's the same size B as if you had 32 Bs in a line. So it doesn't look great. It doesn't react to the paints. We get to pick the font and the color in the current system. So if you pick, you've got a black hull ship with white font, looks great on the default, you go put a white paint on it, it doesn't react to that. We need to enhance that. So
There's something I never understood. Why is it so hard for CRG to give us options for font, size and color?
Polish and niceties, we would like to improve the visuals, but then it's more on the feature side that's the issue.
We need it to be scalable as well. From like the time investment to set it up, it's a huge amount of money. There needs to be more practical way to do it.
The Battlecruiser, for those of you who don't know, is our last concept. It's from the original crowdfunded campaign. We didn't do any concept ships this year. It's our intention to never do another concept ship again other than the Battlecruiser. And when it comes,
I'm going to watch the chat for this.
being a giant military style thing, if only there was a giant military style event that would be appropriate to reveal such things. That's probably where you might expect to learn more about it. Can you separate docking and hangar requests for ships with a docking port like the Perseus? Please, dear God, yes. As docking is quite buggy and very unreliable, it makes it very hard to get into places like Orison, Alevsky, and stations.
Yes, please. It's very annoying when you come back to a space station in your Perseus and you always only get assigned a docking arm, but you want to land in a hangar to unload cargo and vehicles.
we should probably talk with the people doing the command module work because they might be able to squeeze that in.
Will ships like the Perseus and other multi-crew ships for that matter ever get missions with scalable payouts rewards that actually encourage multi-crew? I don't see the point of any multi-crew ships like the Perseus when nothing in this game rewards group play, as rewards and credits are always split. I mean, I'm going to sound a little like a broken record here. It's another refactoring of the entire mission system in order to do the things that we all wanted to do. Will ballistic weapons have different types of ammunition? For example, high velocity, explosive, incendiary.
That's still the plan as far as I'm aware. Again, that's not really a vehicle thing. That's just like that's a game-wide ammo types question for the game and system designers.
I've heard talks of explosive rounds quite a few times. Are you ever going to make turrets actually decent?
Yes.
Or should we just all bring light fighters? Yeah, that's the work of
You're being rich.
Rich's team or whatever. They've done several passes and making improvements of them over the years. They have gotten better, but I don't think anybody's going to sit here and tell you they're where everybody wants it to be.
Yes, turrets and star system were never fantastic, but I think it's fair to say that CRG made them way worse in the last 3 years. Turret movement is way too jerky.
The big ship planned for next IE is the RSI Galaxy.
Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye. Auf Wiedersehen.
We've actually got a pretty comprehensive design right now.
Hey, you're still here. You might want to join me on Twitter or on Blue Sky.